and integrity rather. Ruto and Raila MPs gang up to sign impeachment motion against Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, depicting him as an incorrigible tribal bigot, money launderer, threat to judges and unfit for public office. This is a story on page 4 of the People Daily. Let's just take a look at what is being said on this particular page. And of course, a record of 291 MPs yesterday ganged up to impeach Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Party lines were blurred as the MPs from the ruling Kenya Kwanza coalition teamed up with their colleagues from the opposition to press for Gachagua's ouster. The key players in the motion included the mover, that is Kibwezi West MP Mwingi Mutuse, National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah, his deputy Owen Baya, Minority Leader in Suna East, Member of Parliament Junet Mohammed, Otiende Amolo, Ruth Odinga, and Dadaab MP Farah Maalim. Of course, this is a story on page 4 of the People Daily. You can get this particular newspaper and take a look at that particular story. Another story making headlines on this particular newspaper is Kenya's maternal mortality map, a story on page 3 of the People Daily. Kenya's maternal mortality map, a story on page 3 of the People Daily. Of course, you can grab that particular newspaper and get to read it. And of course, let me just take you through what's saying. Maternal mortality rates remain unacceptably high in Kenya, particularly among rural and marginalized communities with limited access to healthcare services. The National Council of Population and Development has warned. Pain, confusion, rock rollout of SHA. This is a story on page 2 of the People Daily. It's also one of the stories making headlines on this particular newspaper. Taking a look at what it is saying, of course, it was pain, confusion, doubt, disappointment and waste of time for patients seeking treatment and Kenyans trying to register for the Social Health Authority scheme as the government declared transition from the National Health Insurance Fund successful. This is a story on page 2 of these particular newspapers. And also something else, what Kenya will lose in a Adani deal. Story on page 6 and 8. Of course, there are picture of how the airport, the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, would look like if at all this deal went through. And taking the image of a butterfly inspired by the butterflies of this country. That's what this particular story is saying, a story on page 6 and 8 of the People Daily. Let's take a look at what other newspaper and what they're saying. I want us to take a look at the Daily Nation. And the Daily Nation, of course, the top story here is beginning of the end, Gachagua's impeachment. After months of shadow boxing, the tabling of an impeachment motion against Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua and President William Ruto's loud silence mark the breaking point of a political union that has been tested to the limits over the past 2 years. Will the DP survive the oncoming onslaught? What are his options? Page 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10. Covered extensively on the Daily Nation. Of course, page 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 10 of the Daily Nation brings you the details of this impeachment of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Another story making headlines on the Daily Nation is patients stranded in chaotic shift rollout. 2.5%, that's the percentage of Kenyans' earnings that will go into shift from this month. Now, chaos, confusion, tears, and hopelessness engulf patients in hospitals which disabled the National Hospital Insurance Fund before systems to support the new Social Health Insurance Fund were installed. Now, the first day of transition to Social Health Authority and shift turned out to be a total disaster for both patients and hospital administrators around the country. A story on the back page of the People, of the Daily Nation, I beg your pardon. And of course, another story making headlines here, shocker for 46,000 intern teachers as TSC seeks applicants for their jobs. This is a story on page 12. And have you cleared your Hustler Fund loan? State in plan to raid M-Pesa and airtime. Okay, story on page 24. You borrowed, you have to pay. Okay, that is the Daily Nation. Let's take a look at what the Standard is saying. And of course, top story on the Standard, on his way out, just like we've taken a look at the other newspapers. On his way out, now Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua's impeachment nightmare sprang to life yesterday after 291 MPs signed up to a historic motion to send him home on 10 grounds, which Kibwezi MP Mwingi Mutuse says will shock Kenyans even as lawmakers demand more security for Ruto members. A story on page 6, 8 and 9 of the Standard. Right, 10 grounds for impeachment. We have utterances that threaten to discriminate, exclude and unlawfully deny equal opportunities, undermine the president, undermining devolution, scathing public attacks on Lady Justice, violating oath of office, violating national cohesion and integration, amassing property estimated at 5.2 billion, suspected to be proceeds of graft, money laundering and gross misconduct, demeaned, undermined and committed insubordination instead of assisting the president, and bullying, persistent coercion and bullying of state and public officers in the security services, ministries and other state institutions. Of course, we'll be taking a look at that later on. Intern supply afresh for 46,000 teaching jobs. Story on page 2 of the Standard. And of course, NASH register or else patients pain as chief is rolled out. As the controversial new health insurance program rollout begins, some Kenyans are angry, claiming that they are being forced to pay for services such as dialysis out of pocket, even as others who are left in pain after they were forced to wait for approval of their detail before being served. This is a story on page 4 of the Standard. Another story making headlines on this particular newspaper is senators now files a censure motion against Ruto. This is, of course, Dan Maanzo's and a story on page 9 of the Standard. And of course, how rising tides threaten coast communities, a story on page 16. And on Matter Sports, NBA, Great Mutombo's rich legacy, story on page 29 of this particular newspaper. Let's take a look at what the Star is saying. Now, top story on the Star. Graft claims are top list in Gachagwa's removal motion. Of course, impeachment grounds, we've been able to take a look at that. The Star is saying inflammatory and insightful utterances undermining national unity, contradicting president on critical matters, public attacks on judge, gross violation of the constitution, abuse and insulting words, amassing questionable 5.2 billion wealth, insubordination, which is undermining the president, bullying KEMSA officials, and a failing integrity test. Of course, this is illustrated by the Star. You can get that particular newspaper and take a look at that. Another story making headlines on the Star is this man Mutuse, lawmaker behind petition to kick out Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Story on page 2. Of course, he's a member of the Chap, that is a political party, and of course we did see his political or rather party leader congratulating him for this, and of course this party leader is also a member of the cabinet and the cabinet secretary for Labour, that is Alfred Mutua. We'll be also getting a look at that. And issues to do with health. Shah's rocky start as hundreds of patients miss life saving dialysis, a story on page 2. Woman dismissed as concubine wins right to bury her husband, a story on page 3. And of course, era of tribal chieftains must end in Kenya. This, of course, that's an opinion by Senator Ledama Olekina. Of course, that is as far as the newspapers are concerned. Let me, start to, take a look at these headlines that you're waking up to. And of course, I want to do that with my guests here in studio. Of course, we have Honorable James Gakuya, who is the Member of Parliament, Embakasi North. Once again, thank you so much for making time, Mhesh. And Honorable Titus Lote, who is the Member of Parliament, Kacheliba. Thank you so much once again for making time. Let's start with the issue to do with, because we'll be coming back to the issue to do with Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua later on. But the shift rollout, which happened yesterday, there's a lot of confusion, and based on the stories that we've been able to cover, a lot of people asking questions in regards to this particular transition. Was it too soon to transit to shift and abandon NHIF? Let me start with you, Honorable Gakuya.
Thank you very much. Allow me to salute viewers, wherever they are watching us from. And coming to the matter to do with this insurance cover, I would say that, of course, yes, it has been a big rush. I think there could be enough time for migration. And taking note that, in fact, at this particular moment, there is patients that actually were on a medication, and where this cover was on, and at least by the time that the migration from the past to the current, then I think there was to be some fine-tuned way on how to migrate, so that those patients will not suffer. You realize that in fact there are cases where there is pure dependence on this cover, and at this point in time there were about most of the outcry yesterday on matters to do with how those patients to do at this particular moment. Yes, it's okay, and I don't think that in fact it's time to argue much about reverse gear, but I also think that since that this is a new concept, there could be a proper migration modality where any single member who is a member of the current cover of NHIF was to be automatic member to migrate to the new, and given a room to praise those other maybe documents or details that are required. But at least for the purpose of taking care of those patients, I think it was important to make it automatic migration for those who has the current cover of the NHIF, so that no single no single patient could suffer at this migration time. I think at the point we are, the proposal to me is a good proposal, and I have no problem with it. But the big question that is at hand is that what new are we going to do to minimize the lackets? Because you find that in fact the biggest lacket that has been the case on the previous cover was that those service providers were the people who has been reigning and who has made this insurance not to prosper to the best. I don't know what is new measures and how we are going to recruit those new service providers, and what the change that we expect to get from them, taking concern that there are same hospitals that are going to provide these services.
Honorable Tetas, state officials have been pleading with Kenyans to enlist with the social health insurance health authority. Before I want to welcome morning to you, Don.
I'm having a good morning.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So, Honorable Tetas, my question will be, because, we've seen our state officials pleading with Kenyans to come and enlist on this particular cover. Was it too soon to roll it out? Did we do enough public participation? Why on the day that you're rolling out, that's when we realized the numbers are not, as we had anticipated earlier?
Well, thank you. So far, up to yesterday, we have got 2.3 million Kenyans already shifted to SHIF. That's a substantive number, considering that is the beginning of rolling over to SHIF, the first day of October. And many Kenyans had dreaded the first day of October because they knew this was the day there was a shift, and when there is a shift, definitely we were to see the challenges that we saw yesterday. First of all, we need to appreciate the fact that this health insurance has been something in the Kenyans' desks for a long time. In 2013, we started the universal health coverage program. And all the time, Kenyans were very afraid to go into a new thing. And I think it is not only a disease in Kenya, but a disease in humans, where people fear the unknown. The fear of unknown is real in us here. And when we started in 2013, when Uhuru Kenyatta just took over as the president of this country in the new constitution, it took a lot of time. It took 5 years. Up to 2018 is when we actually started to do some bit of a pilot in 4 counties. in Nyeri, in Isiolo, in Kisumu, and in Machakos. We were trying to see if it works. And actually it proved that it worked in those countries. The only challenges were issues of funding and the likes. But then Kenyans did not have the impetus and the energy to actually roll over and accept that the new thing could be good. So even when this administration came, one of the campaign platform was that they are going to ensure that what was not done by the previous regime, they were going to do it. And so it has taken 2 years, again, of trying to test, and fears are there. And of course, there are Kenyans that are always fearful, and Kenyans that are always pouring cold water on anything that the government wants to do. And so I do not think that it was rushed. I really think that there are people that are sabotaging. And this sabotage from the people that are doing it are either doing it because they fear for their known, and so they spread public lies and they spread public fear. But I'm telling you, by the end of the day, today, if yesterday we got 2.3 million, I'm sure by the end of the day today, or by the end of this week, we will probably have enrolled over 10 million Kenyans into this program. I'm telling you, the challenges that we've actually seen about the rollover from NHIF, which has been bedeviled with a lot of issues, corruption and name it, is we're trying to get out of that. We're trying to get completely out of that. And so the systems have to be put into place so that we do not roll over Kenya into a new system and also roll over the problems that NHIF had into the new system.
And NHIF did have a number of issues. But this is the thing, based on conversations that people have been able to have, were like, why not use the money that we are using to roll out a shift to streamline issues at NHIF, Senator Gloria?
Thank you. For me, I think our biggest problem in the Kenya Kwanza government is we have really good, impactful ideas, but the executors of these ideas are butchering those ideas. That's what I think. What Mheshimiwa is trying to explain is that we have a change management. It's a system that we are changing from one system to another system. And when you're looking at change management, there are certain key elements. Planning is one of them, but communication is another. And communication to who? Your stakeholders. So for instance, personally, I have been inquiring about how we are shifting from the previous Linda Mama to the new Linda Mama. And the only thing I've asked through a statement in the Senate is, can I be furnished with the services that are included in the Linda Mama that has been rolled out within this new system? And nobody, not a health management authority, not the cabinet secretary, not the PS, nobody has been able to just send me a list of services. So who are your stakeholders? Who are your stakeholders? I am the end user of whatever it is that you're trying to change. In fact, one of the things I asked is, it's very simple. You know, we are not reinventing the wheel. There are definitely a lot of positive aspects within SHA. There are a lot of which Kenyans don't know, including myself. I don't know, because I have not been sensitized. Because in this change management, nobody has talked to me as a stakeholder. Nobody has communicated what needs to be communicated to me. Now, when I ask a simple question like, what are the services within Linda Mama, I get all sorts of conflicting answers. You go to one, I go to Pumwani, I was told there's a scan included, there's no scan included. When you go to the ground, they tell you the scan is if you are admitted. There's a lot of confusion. And all you need to be told is, this is how much I'm paying, and here is the service charter. Just like any other insurance that you are going to purchase privately. So if we can't even communicate a basic service that is within the plans that are there, because there are those who are not paying any money, but they're still getting services.
And that's the thing, because it's been a long time coming. This conversation has been happening for a minute now, until yesterday when you're actually rolling this. And you see, you get to a point where the D-Day, when it comes to now wanting people to join in, that's when you're trying to communicate. So
no, they've been trying to. That's not true, because the issue of communication is not that they started yesterday. The issue of communication is that they don't even, these people who are in charge of this communication, whether the ministry, whether the authority, they don't even know who they should communicate what to. For instance, when I asked for the Linda Mama service charter, I was sent a 67-page on our WhatsApp group, and I said, I am a senator. And I'm finding it difficult, not because I can't read, but because I'm not going to go through a 67-page policy document for me to understand. Right now, I'm going for antenatal. What can I get under Linda Mama? There is a way you can break down your communication, and it's very simple. That antenatal includes 8 visits. This is there. This you don't have to pay for. It's very, very. Other private insurance companies have been able to do it. In fact, when you're walking in the streets of Nairobi, a private insurance sales agent atakusimamisha, and then they say, "Hey, you can buy this for your house help."
Okay.
And these are the services you have, and on the spot within 10 minutes you can make a decision whether this is a worthy cover to have or not. So what is the issue? Why are we acting like we are bringing up a new thing? This is not a new thing. So for me, I will just say we have very good ideas, very good, and if implemented by the right people who are executing, they have high impact. By the way, SHA has got very good things which even I don't know. But I know that there are good things in there. Because once in a while I listen to people talking, I say, oh, now dental has moved from this amount to that amount. That's a good thing. But can't we just get our communication strategy right?
How do we get that right? 30 seconds before I take a break. What will be the best way to communicate the ideas that the government has?
You know, they say if you don't believe in whatever product you are selling, you cannot sell it.
Okay.
When I looked at some of the people who were being interviewed yesterday on SHA from government, they themselves don't know, they don't believe, so they can't sell it. For you to know and believe, you first must understand. Like me, I'm really struggling to sell Linda Mama, not because I don't believe in it, I don't have information about it. Okay. Yeah, so we first of all, the people we are sending to communicate have to be sensitized. I had the cabinet secretary being asked, how are you going to deduct people for those who are not employed on payroll? And you know, at that moment is when it hit her, oh, by the way, how are we going to deduct that? How can you now be sent as the fisher of men when you yourself, you don't know the gospel? All right. I get your point. Time to take a break here on New Dawn. When we come back, of course, we'll be getting into the second part of this conversation, and of course taking a look at the state of the nation and what has been happening on the political front, and that has to do with the impeachment of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. What are his options? How did we get to this particular point? Of course, that conversation coming right after this short break here on New Dawn. Continue engaging us on our socials at K24 across social media platforms. Do tell us exactly what you think, whether the Deputy President should actually, put up a fight or reside, because there has been sentiments that is to save his political career could actually, choose to opt out at this particular moment.
We interrupt this program to bring you some breaking news.
Meet the team of undercover teenage spies working for a fictional version of the secret intelligence agency known as the MI9.